off.
Yeah, so my first idea was just a normal man, everyday sort of person who's in an accident where he's also witnessing a robber kill another everyday person. The saying for it would be like an everyday normal saying, because this way it's easily familiar for the actual audience themselves, so they can relate to possibly some of their surroundings. The actual story of it would be like the protagonist is taking his normal route home, where he takes a shortcut because he has to rush home, and he witnesses a crime, robbery, which leads to a murder, attempts to stop it, but then he receives an injury in the attempt to stop it, and when he wakes up, there's things that he sees but aren't real, but there's things that are real, and basically the entire story is shown from his perspective, but there's like the enigma of if it's all in his head and if it's real or not, because it could just be a dream from his perspective, but you don't, because certain things are real, certain things aren't real. There's and because it's the thriller genre, it would be like low-key lighting for effective shadows and fast-paced music to build up adrenaline during tense times. My second idea was just probably an easier idea to do. It's just a normal adult, young adult teenager who attends a school or a college, and there's not one particular antagonist in the film, same like the last one. There's multiple antagonists. As I said, the saying is like a school, normal streets, easily recognizable for the viewer. And the story would be a schoolboy witnesses a crime, and then when he tries to stop the crime, the day reverses backwards in time to a previous time during the day, but then he goes back to the scene of the crime and the same thing occurs again, and he keeps going back in time, and that he has to prevent this crime from happening as well as other things later on. Then it's shown from the protagonist's point of view to help with the enigma of the story, because there's specific things that the protagonist has to work out as well, and because it's shown from his view, it's better that the audience can also work out with the protagonist. And again, mise en scène, during key periods of the crime scene and everything, low-key lighting, use of shadows to build on the thriller genre. But because of the special supernatural sort of side to it, the shots would be reverse shots, as I said, and at weird, odd, peculiar angles to help create an enigma. And yeah, that's my second idea. The SWOT for it, I did my SWOT on the school idea, the everyday school kid. The actual technical, there's no really any major threats unless one person in the group can't attend a school on a particular day, because we already come to school on a daily basis. So we have the hour setting, and we're allowed to use it freely. They can all, but a weakness could be periods of the time of the week which we cannot film, because maybe breaks or lunch times there's large crowds walking around the halls, or we don't show a free period. Financial, it's quite possible that we might need a particular prop that costs too much at a specific time, but because we can't afford it, we can't film maybe that particular scene to how we want to. But a strength could be we don't actually have to purchase anything because it's a normal school day sort of environment, and it doesn't really, there's no really expensive props needed for the actual opening itself as well, because it's not the full film. The brief would be, there's no major threats to actually meeting the brief, except appealing to the older spectrum of the audience, because we're all quite young. It's going to be harder for us to appeal to 24-year-olds, whereas 16 to 18-year-olds will find it a bit easier to actually appeal to that sort of age group, because that is our age group and we know what appeals to them more. And again, if we try too hard to actually appeal to that specific group of audience, it might end up in them actually not liking it, to an extent. And the legal requirements, the biggest issue we'll probably have when it comes to legal is copyrighted music, because if we use copyrighted music, we won't be allowed to put it up on YouTube or anything like that. And but there's no real issue with premises because we're filming on the school site, and because we attend the school, we have no issues with actually filming on the site itself. And yeah, that was my swap for the initial idea number 2 of mine.
Those are some really good ideas, guys. I think now we should discuss what idea we like the best and maybe give ideas and stuff.
I mean, there's 3 here which I think they're because we spoke about this in class. It was like a young person playing an adult role. So like with one of my ideas, it's a normal man, everyday civilian attending work. He's not going to be. We're not going to be able to do that because we're playing an older person, or the detective ideas, because that's an adult role.
Yeah.
We're not actually going to be able to play it to an extent, because that means there's also the level of maturity that the older people get, and also it might not appeal to the younger audience as much because it's not young, and
Yeah.
it'll be more sophisticated of a thing, because we're trying too hard to appeal to the older spectrum.
Which you had a teen in one of your ideas, right?
Yeah, I had the school one where he stops time, goes back in time, and has to stop to eat like all the different crimes.
Okay. See, I like that idea, the way like, it goes back in time, but I'm not really sure about what you mean. Like, does you go back in time to stop a crime, but the crime still happens? And
Yeah, so basically, like, imagine someone in the school toilets or something, they get attacked, and then it ends up in an accidental murder. Like, the kid reverses back time to the class beforehand, before he went into the toilet, and everything around him is back time, like 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. He goes to the toilet and the same thing occurs. So he's got to try and change it, if you know what I mean. Like, he's got to try and change the way that occurs so the person doesn't die.
Oh, so is it like some movies and TV shows, when they go back in time, then the other person, the other version of themselves that went back in time, will they
Oh
still be back?
no!
Or is it just them?
It's just purely he goes back in time.
Okay, so like that, like there's one thing that happens and they have to like prevent it,
Yeah,
and it keeps happening. That'll be interesting.
And sorry.
I feel like I'm struggling here to kind of understand the concept of who's the protagonist and who's the antagonist, because if you're saying that the person who has done the accidental death has had to go back in time to try and change it, then it seems like that he's trying to sort of be a protagonist, because he's trying to change the bad thing into being good. But then at the same time you have the victim of the killing, who will also be the protagonist in a way, if you know what I mean, because he's kind of the victim. He hasn't really done anything wrong.
But
he's an innocent.
protagonist is mainly the character you follow.
You follow throughout the entire film, and with the whole point is that the narrative on both of them, despite the first idea again being the adult role one, they both follow the protagonist. So that's what it is, because the protagonist doesn't have to be someone who goes up against an antagonist. It's just someone who you follow throughout the entire.
They don't even have to be a good guy sometimes. Could be a bad guy. It's just the character you follow. You guys are my ideas.
Yeah, because one of them again is a normal teen, and it's easier for us because we're all teens, and it's a lot easier. As I said, it's a lot easier for us to actually both appeal to the younger audience because we're younger.
I think in a way it would help to kind of really grips our audience, because they would kind of, well, in a big way actually, be able to relate to what happened, because first of all it's, everyday setting, and also they would be a similar age group to the people in the film, so it would really make them have to think a lot about it. You know what I mean?
For your idea, the kidnapping one.
Yeah.
I don't think we don't have to have detectives for that one. They could just be like people our age, and their friends get kidnapped, and they're trying to, then like maybe one of them's like smart enough, and like they know who detective is.
Yeah, I think that would help.
I mean the kidnapper, sorry.
I think that would help. I think in that way, similar to yours, it would help to kind of help our target audience to relate more.
So we need to aim on like having our protagonists as like our age, because it'll be easier to appeal to the audience and have like find people.
Yeah.
I think we could all like change our protagonist to like younger characters if you can, like your
Pretty much, yeah. Like with,
your illusion one.
yeah, exactly.
could be
With
done.
this idea, it could just literally be he coming back from school instead of coming back from work.
Going back to my point that I made on my SWOT analysis about the crew and having the characters, what are we? I think that's going to be one of the problems we might have, because obviously we've got to all be in the part of the film, at the same time we need to be able to film the content as well, which I feel like we need to kind of work on to improve that.
We don't have to all be in the movie. It could just be one of us could be like a cameraman and stuff.
Okay.
As long as we're there observing what's happening.
Especially when we can get people from outside, just us three, to help as well.
Because I think they're going to have to, that's definitely going to have to be something
Yeah,
they're
we're
going to
gonna
have to
need
do
more
there.
people, definitely.
Yeah, certainly.
So, are we supposed to like decide who's got like the idea we want to do, or
We could do. If
I
you
think
want one.
we have to merge our ideas.
we could like put some ideas into each other's if we can, but it has to be like a strong idea we have to follow.
Okay. Well, I think we've all got some form of idea of a kidnap, right? Most of us have got an idea of that, so I think that's maybe a theme that we should follow. I think we should follow a kidnapping storyline with people that have got similar to our age. I mean, what do you guys think of that?
I mean, don't be mean, but I think that's been done before. I kind of want to do something unique. We could do like something similar.
We've also got the issue of location as well.
Yeah.
How we can just film it in someone's house, but again, like
Yeah, I wrote like
furniture around it.
a dark room in one of mine, but I don't know where you could get a dark room.
We'd have to probably manipulate the lighting a little bit.
Yeah, but we can't just have like a whole movie based on one room. I mean, we're not doing the whole movie, we're just doing the opening.
But
But
yeah,
I think it'd be more interesting to have like an open.
I think we're going to have to definitely get some public scenes,
Yeah,
like some main roads.
to give it like realism.
Yeah.
I think we need that. Yeah.
And I was thinking whether like this, supposedly cloudy, quite murky clouds,
Yeah, it's
kind of
dull.
gives that negative, that pathetic fallacy, doesn't it? That negative theme.
I like for my one. I like the idea of like supernatural powers. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to do that. So maybe kidnapping or something simple would be better.
Yeah.
But I also like Ben's idea about the something wrong with this. Maybe during a kidnapping or something happens to his head. He's like, "What's this? Is this real or not?" And then he doesn't realize he's not been kidnapped.
yeah,
It's in his head the whole
it's in
time.
his head the whole time, or because that way it's also the viewers also they have to try and work out at the same time because it's completely from his perspective. Like it's not like they know exactly they know what happened to him, but they don't know what's real or not either.
And
to an extent.
if we're gonna do that within the opening, we need to make it clear that if there's something wrong with his head, that he's actually like seeing things. Not
That's
what's
that's
actually
another
happening.
issue as well because it's not the full movie again. It's just the opening.
Yeah, so we gotta make that clear within the first 2 minutes.
I also feel like something we have to bear in mind. We have to bear in mind it's an opening sequence, and that we don't want too much. We don't want to give away too much because there's still a whole movie.
Yeah, we're just opening like the movie, so we gotta give like the key elements in it.
And also, we don't want it to be an opening sequence is important because it makes the audience think about whether if this is the right thing for them, like whether this is the right thing they want to follow, whether it's going to be easy for them to follow throughout the film or not. It's a very key and important part of a film, I think. So we need to make sure that it's something to grips them, but at the same time, something that doesn't just give everything away.
Yeah.
In terms of shots, camera angles, technical side, what do we think of that?
I think they need to remain like conventional. Maybe some can be unconventional to show something weird's happening. To make like give a feeling of discomfort.
To build it to the actual story itself, basically.
I think side angle, as I mentioned before, would be good because obviously it shows for the suspects, if we have any, that they're not brave enough to show their actual general, whether they're innocent or not, like they feel guilty, like they feel scared to actually give eye contact.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what they'll do actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Forge, your horse is good. We're not done.